Welcome back to the podcast. My guest today is a 2010 graduate of Ketchikan High School. He finished third in the steeplechase at the United States Track and Field Championships in July. Isaac Updike, thanks for being on here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I want to first start off with Ketchikan, of course. Graduated in 2010. Think back to your freshman year of cross country. Um, what was that like? Because I remember my first race in Sitka. I remember sprinting as fast as I could and just watching everybody just disappear in front of me. Growing up in Clark, I thought that maybe I was a little bit fast because I was getting top tens on the island, but oh my
Yeah.
gosh, first race in high school was just horrible. How was yours?
Yeah, my first I don't know that I remember specifically my first race as a freshman. I do remember regionals at Juneau and I had I think I got out kicked for like 11th or 12th to
Mm,
make that was my first time really being like a couple spots outside of the window to make the next like level, right? To make state at that point. That was my like one of the times that I remember like setting a goal for next season, right?
mhm.
Like, oh, I was that close. Let's do it next year.
So you've been a pretty accomplished runner all throughout. It wasn't something that you had to kind of build to senior year. You're going to make it like you were working at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I did make state yeah, the next 3 years and got like progressively better at state. I think I was like 48th and then 24th and then like fourth or something like
Oh,
that.
nice.
Or sixth. So yeah, I was good for the bubble that you're in. But Alaska isn't really known outside of, maybe Alio and Trevor Dunbar.
Yeah.
And now a couple other good runners. One here, a couple in NAU actually. Like they're not super elite. We don't have like the top
Yeah.
dogs every year. So being good in Alaska is good for Alaska.
Did you grow up running? Was it something that you wanted to do? Was it something that parents got involved, or sometimes it's just like a
Yeah.
coping mechanism? You just get out and not that it's a nice, beautiful day to ever take a run here in
Yeah.
Ketchikan, but what were those early days like?
Yeah, I never ran for the sake of running. I just did a lot of other sports that involved the fartlek or endurance style of running. I mean, my dad was like a runner in his high school and he was known as a runner in Ketchikan. He did a lot of relays back in the day with Dan Ortez and Greg Sinkstead and Ron Medell,
Hmm.
like some old school runners. But other than that, it was just kind of integrated through soccer, through basketball, mainly, and then obviously cross country.
What was your biggest sport in high school? The one you kind of looked to the most?
It ended
Uh,
up being, I mean, my passion was soccer, but I knew by the time I was coming into my senior year that uh, I was just better at running.
mhm.
You kind of tell when you're naturally good at something, and that also like makes you enjoy it more because you're better at it, right? Like it's fun to be good at something.
Mhm.
Uh, so despite all that, I only did track my sophomore year because then that was the year that we got turf out at
Oh,
Pond.
yeah, yeah.
So then it was like, oh no, I'm playing soccer my senior year. So I didn't do track when I probably should have from like a college like recruitment standpoint.
Mhm. What kind of high school athlete were you? You're involved. Obviously, you have to be here in Southeast just to get off the island, just to travel, just to do whatever. But like, were you just kind of naturally gifted? Did you work really, really hard at it? Were you, taking care of the body and watching what you ate? What was that
No.
like?
Um, I think I would just you can kind of tell when there's pockets. Every grade kind of has a few where you just grow up around a group of boys and girls that are all playing sports together in the street, in the backyard. And you just like it was never it never felt like a task to go outside and shoot hoops or play, 2v2 soccer in the driveway with some like cones or something like
Mm,
that, right? You're just enjoying it. And just trying to get better at it to beat your brother, to beat your friend.
yeah.
But it did, yeah, a lot of stuff. I guess you can classify me as athletic in terms of a runner. Um, there's a lot more athletic people out there, but in the running world, people at my level tend to have stuck to running from an early age.
Hmm. Yeah, that's such an important thing growing up now. And sometimes kids ask me what I was like in high school and what I would be like now. And I said, I don't know. If you have that good group of kids who's involved in stuff and you're very self-sufficient, you go outside and you play, you go to the river, you do whatever it is. But man, if you take that situation away, you take some of those influences away, and who knows how dedicated you are to a sport or this or
Mhm.
that. So that crew is really, really important.
Yeah, yeah. And there was some like, you know, obviously I mentioned Dan Ortez and another one would have been, though I wasn't on the team for a whole lot, but the basketball coach, if Stockholm, is Stock still there?
Stockhausen, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
He, he was a little firmer though, because it was his first year, that first, yeah. But despite him being hard, you learn a lot about like how to approach a sport, in terms of like you're saying with dedication and how that kind of applies to outside of the sport as
Mhm.
well, right? With like character building and things like that.
Yeah, I have his son in class, and he's writing an article about for journalism class about how you can learn a lot from sports. And he
Mhm.
made a comment in there about sports teaches you this and that. And I said, well, you be careful about that because sports doesn't necessarily teach you that stuff. It can teach you that, but there are some people who end up being arrogant punks or brats because of their sporting experience. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, how were you as far as dedication goes? Like, did you like people who were really strict? Did it bring that fire in you, or was it kind of something afterwards that you learned the lesson and thought, okay, well maybe I let that crushed my self esteem, or maybe I was mad at coach.
Yeah. I think that naiveness played into it a lot. I don't know that I would have recognized, like outside looking in, people probably thought it was dedication. But, on one hand, if everyone else is doing it, you're just like, I'm doing it as well. Right. And also that competitiveness, and wanting to win and be better, like that can look like dedication.
Mhm.
um, and so I think those were probably the two biggest factors. And also like running is quite pure in the sense that you're out there chasing your own time. You're trying to beat other people too, but it's like what even in high school, I can remember talking to Dan and about um, strategies and like running a little slower through mile one so you can have a little more in mile two. And it, like that kind of stuff clicked with me earlier than I think some other people
Mhm.
that I was against.
How important was strategy? For me, it was just kind of like run. Yeah, there wasn't because I just did cross country to get ready for basketball. I
Yeah.
was I was definitely one of those. So how much does strategy or how much did it play, and then how much does it play now as a
Yeah.
professional? It's got to be a lot more important.
Yeah, now I feel like everyone is at like a current day, that where I'm competing against, there's less strategy. Well, on the track, there's less strategy in general. At least for me, it's like with the steeplechase, you like it's quite hard just throughout, like through and through. It's not as like it can be tactical, but it's not generally as tactical as some other events. But thinking back to like cross country in high school, I remember specifically with Ward Lake and the home course, that trail is quite windy and just enough to be able to break vision. And and it's a powerful thing to like throw in little surges and get to where you're, you may only be 20 feet ahead, but the person behind you is two turns back. And when they
Mm-hmm.
turn that corner and they don't see you, they don't realize you're that close. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like a psychological thing where they like, at least I thought, that, like people can give up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they think that you're further ahead than you are. And then by the time you realize that it's too late, and stuff like that. So I use that a lot. The Sika course has it a little bit, when you get across the bridge and do the small loops, if I
Mm-hmm.
remember the course right. And then obviously on Wood Lake with the 1.3 mile loop on the last like half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Did you find that you were a lot more mentally tough than you thought? Running is definitely one of those like you're in your
yeah.
head. There's no adrenaline. If you're tired on defense in basketball and there's a loose ball, you're not thinking about tired. You're just going. Floor burns doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Not really have
Um,
that in cross country or in running. So how's your mental toughness improved, or has it just been enhanced?
yeah. I guess I probably have had it, but it's been pretty logical in the sense that like I would do a workout and be like, all right, I can run this. And so like I should be able to run this. Um, so I would just go out and like it's a little like give and take, right? Because if you run, let's say 5:30s or I guess that's 5:30s for a 5K and it's like 16:10. But maybe you do that and you blow up a little bit at the end and run like a 6:10 last mile. My thought process was always like, all right, um, that's 6:45 pace, but maybe I can go out and run 6:40s for all 3 miles. And I'm 5 seconds faster than I was last week. Just with that like combination of strategy and mental toughness.
Mm-hmm. So you graduate from K High, you go to Eastern Oregon.
Yeah,
Did was running part of the decision to go there? Because
definitely.
that's an NAIA, and did you get a scholarship there, or was it walk on?
I didn't, I walked on. Yeah, it was a mixed bag. I didn't have a ton of resources. I mean, Ketchikan's not like the stomping ground for a bunch of NCAA athletes. So like I didn't know kind of what was out there, and maybe I didn't do enough research my own, or didn't have enough curiosity at the time. But I had sent a couple like cold call emails to a couple colleges. One of which was Eastern Oregon because my sister was also going there. She's a year older than me. And I also knew that the coach was from Anchorage. So that may have been like Ben Welch. May have been like a not a cheat code, but like soft spot for Alaska.
And inside, yeah.
Yeah. And I looked up their times and converted my 5K to what the NAI runs, which is an 8K, and knew that I would be in their top 7. So I had like a good shot of, walking on. And um that was kind of like the two halves to why I went there.
Mm-hmm. And then you're in college. At what point do you think, hey, I can keep doing this afterwards? Because some people they're fine with their career ending at the end of high school. Other kids, it's I want to find a place to play in college. 2 years fine, 4 years fine. But then other people think there's still something here. When did you make the decision that you wanted to do more?
Yeah, I don't. So like, I went to Eastern Oregon for 5 years. And again, kind of got lucky with, there was 3 or 4 other Alaskans, from Palmer, Wasilla, Anchorage, that were also runners. Turns out my coach liked to recruit from Alaska, so he was pretty biased there. But kind of got lucky and found another pocket of it was ended up being 7 guys, including my twin brother Luke, who also ran for K High and obviously graduated the same year as me, and ended up coming to Eastern as well. And that like we all by the time our like college careers were finishing up, we were kind of all like, well, we think we could run a little faster. So like, do you just want to move to Eugene? And we kind of had a little bit of an in on one of the local like semi-elite community. It was semi-elite, like quite a mixed bag of runners on this team called Team Run Eugene. Um, yeah, but I mean, when I graduated, I definitely wasn't thinking that I'd go pro. But I was just calling myself post collegiate. I'm just a post collegiate runner, right? And then that first year, kind of like I had set goals. That was 2015. Yeah. So I came in 2015, and and you have like your goal setting stuff with the new coach Ian Dobson, and ended up like hitting kind of like a 4-year plan in that first year, and qualifying for the Olympic trials, and then actually making the final at the Olympic trials. And then it was like, oh wow, like I can run with the big dogs, and I have the PRs and the steeple to show it. So that was again kind of like a full circle back to freshman year of high school at Juneau for regionals, where it was like, wow, I just missed this, but I made the final. So like maybe I can, instead of being 13th, maybe I can be 6th or
Mm-hmm.
something that next time. So
What was that first year like after college? Like, what was the structure like? Were you being actively coached? Was it you had some
yeah.
mentors and
Yeah. Ian Dobson he was the main coach for Team Run Eugene. I was working in a mixed bag, like a couple different places. I worked for actually, I'm blanking on his name. It's called Nine Wood. It's in Springfield, but I got the connection through, oh, he's gonna hate that I forgot his name. He's from Ketchikan. His brother I think it was like maybe his brother-in-law was the one who like worked there as well and kind of got me an in. So I worked at a
Mhm.
sawmill for a couple months, and the hours were just not ideal for what I wanted to do. And then transitioned to working at Dick's Sporting Goods and Fred Meyer's, and kind of just did like the 9 to 5 or more like 11 to 7 grind, so that I was able to work out in the mornings. But yeah, we had a pretty structured. We would meet Tuesday, Friday, some weeks, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, some weeks. Lived with some of the other guys. Like I said, that group of college runners, we all moved there. So we all lived together as well. We were running every day together, and everything was just elevated from
Mhm.
college to post collegiate in terms of volume and strength training and workouts. And
What was your degree in?
it was in marketing, and it was the double major in marketing and uh or I guess it's called the double focus, marketing and LOM, which is leadership, organization, and management, two
Mhm.
business
Okay.
focuses, and then a minor in computer science.
So at any point was there this temptation to where I don't know if this running thing is going to work out? Maybe it's time to put my major to work, or were there
No.
other pressures that okay, I mean he's chasing this dream, but now it's time to grow up and use the majors?
Yeah. Um, any sort of doubts I had about that probably went away, one, in the springtime when I ran the Olympic trials standard. But also like the people around me and my parents were also like, this is a finite time, right? Like you can do a 9 to 5 and work a career job for the rest of your life, but you can't chase a professional career for like, you couldn't be like 45 and like, all right, time to try and see if I can make a team.
Hmm.
So they were a pretty heavy influence on whenever I was maybe in need of some finances, or just in day-to-day life where it's like,
Hmm.
it's tiring or whatever. And so that was definitely a big factor early on.
Hmm. In other sports like basketball, you look at the people who are in the NBA or the G League, you got about 2 or 3 years. So like the 18 to, if you're 21, 22 years old and you don't have it, like you're not going to have it.
Yeah.
Runners, it's not necessarily like that. So what's the, I guess, shelf life on a professional running career
Mhm.
compared to some of those other sports?
It's ever changing. All that kind of depends on the discipline you're trying to get into. Obviously you can see with like the marathon and stuff, there tends to be a little older of a mature date. And things, it goes hand in hand with explosiveness, I would say. So things like, some of the field events like long jump, triple jump, and then the sprints tend to be, you're better at a younger age, just because your body can't handle that explosiveness and that power once you get over. I'm not going to put like a firm date or a firm
Mm-hmm.
time number on what that is, because like theoretically, I've been doing this for, I don't know, coming up on 10 years, and I've still progressed through those years, right? Whereas I have some friends who started in the NCAA and like have retired by this point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it depends on the discipline, and kind of like I would classify myself as like undertrained in both high school and college. And that's not like meant to be a negative thing to either one of my like coaches or anyone that, helped me. Because you don't know that you're undertrained, or I didn't know that I was being undertrained at the time. It's just like you're in that circle that they know and you're following it, right? Because you trust them. And that's like you're performing better each week or each year. And you weren't getting greedy.
Yeah. I think if you were to do what some a 25-year-old who has professional coaches to, if you were to do that with like a 15 or 14-year-old, people would probably say, hey, chill a little. I mean, he's 14,
People
15
do that
years
though.
old. They
That's
absolutely do it.
so
In my,
that's like the whole, yeah, that's kind of where you kind of come into some weird moral stuff there. But like with social media and the internet and the access that people have now, like, and then you add in NIL deals, which
oh,
are,
yeah.
so it's like the mentality of strike while the iron's hot. A lot of these brands, like you have a 16 or 17-year old who's running at a professional level, like that is worth a lot more money, like 10x.
Mm-hmm.
um so that's a super big incentivizing thing that you like as a parent or a kid, like you could do my route, which has been like grind it out for 7 years and then finally make it. And, I'm not going to change that. But there are other people who are like, all right, I could do that. Or as an 18-year-old, I could sign a pro contract and make, 6 or 7 figures
Hmm.
and be hurt by the time I'm 24, but have
Hmm.
made X amount of money. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what you want and what and your resources as a young kid.
What's been some of the biggest, like the amount of knowledge we have about nutrition and about training has, it's not even close. If you look back at just the way people ran in the 70s and 80s, looking at some of the older footage, it's like all grid, it looks like.
Yeah.
So what's been some of the things that really opened your eyes to how you can become a highly functioning athlete?
Um, I mean, I think like I'm trying to think of what yeah, there's a lot of like micros and macros now, and different like in terms of like supplements and stuff. There like a lot of people are like a little more acutely aware of uh, being on top of iron and vitamin B and vitamin D and things that are good, magnesium, things that are good for recovery, and like that's kind of what you're trying to get down, right? Like you can run as hard as you want, but if you can't recover efficiently, not just with supplements but with fueling as well, right? Knowing to take protein following hard sessions so you can do that, or preloading collagen into your system with vitamin C before you start running so your tendons are healthier when you finish. um, all things that I've kind of learned over the past 7 or 8 years to not like at the core of running, it's just consistency. So like if you're able to just run every day and like day in, day out for years, like then eventually you have like those breakthroughs. But to get to those, you have to make sure you're doing the daily things right.
Mm-hmm. Is there a difference between like types of supplements? Some people, they take all these different supplements, but they're cheap supplements. Other people say don't use supplements, just get what you need from your diet. And for like an ordinary person like me, I just need to be a highly performing English teacher. I don't necessarily need to be a world-class athlete. So, I don't
Yeah.
need to be spending a ton of money in
Yeah.
supplements, but my wife and I do definitely take care of how we eat, and we, make sure we're eating some good quality stuff. So is your diet enjoyable, or is it very strict
Yeah.
based on your goals?
No, again, comes down to the personality. I was actually talking about this earlier today with someone who's like, a world class athlete, and this person gets like they have like their macros like down to grams, right? So they're eating a certain amount of grams of protein per day, and it's all weighed out and stuff for them. They're not having to do it, which is like
Yeah, huge.
yeah, huge. Yeah, yeah. It's less, I don't know that they do it, but I like that person likes winning, and the process of winning is doing this. Therefore, they probably just don't mind. Like it's just part of the process, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would find joy in running if I was doing it like that. And I don't eat unhealthy, right? I'll have ice cream here or there, or some hot tamales or some sort of, but I don't like I generally don't have any sort of soda or processed foods. Like my cheat meal, if I'm gonna go out to eat, is and don't want to like cook, it's like going to Chipotle.
Yeah, yeah.
And people are like, that's like not a cheat meal. I'm like, well, like I just usually like make a lot of my food. I also have some weird, like I don't eat a ton of gluten or dairy, which is adds to maybe me forcing myself to prep and like have cleaner meals just generically,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't go out and have like a burger or cheeseburger or something like that as a lot of my peers could.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of supplements, I guess this is like a sidebar. Um, real quick, like we get drug tested. Like I'm on a like every day that USADA is the company or the governing body, United States Drug Association. Um, they know where I'm at, and so they can randomly show up and test me. And in respect to supplements, there can be a lot of cross contamination.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the supplements that I specifically look for are ones that are repped by NSF, which is National. I don't know I'm not going to pretend like I know what NSF stands for, but it's a stamp that basically says we quality check these to make sure that nothing is in there that shouldn't be in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that it gives in. That's what our governing body said. Like they did their blind tests and said that this stamp is the safest stamp you can have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of anything that I get is going to be more expensive because it has the NSF stamp, and usually means it's more organic and stuff like that. No farmed fish.
Absolutely not. No, I don't even have to ask. I just figured.
Yeah.
When you were in high school, what was your favorite pre-race meal? So a lot of the whole spaghetti feed the night before
Yeah.
carload thing, and
That's
there's
that's
always a
that's
couple
exactly.
students who are like, "Mr. Lund, I get really tired the next day, and I hate spaghetti." I'm like, "Well, that's what everyone says that spaghetti's the thing to do." But what have you found as far as nutrition wise that not that I mean it seems like it makes sense. I'm sure for a lot of kids it's fine, but as far as what you eat
Yeah,
before a race,
I
not
would
as
say the
much.
red sauce like looking back now, the red sauce can be a little acidic for some people and might, especially if you eat it late at like 8 or 9 at night, and then you're having to get up and do a race at 8 in the morning. That acidity in the stomach, extra acidity, might cause issues for some people, in terms of like heartburn or something like that. But I don't really have like a pre-race meal because I race in so many different places that you can't be uh like fixated on one thing, and that is a good thing. I think that comes from growing up in Ketchikan and in Southeast, and taking the ferries and just
Hmm.
like you're just having to make do with what you have and where you're at. But any sort of basic carb, right? That's like the whole idea is you're carb loading. You're building up a fuel source that you can then burn the following day during the race.
What type of carb are you like? Just for an
Um,
example, what are you eating the night before?
I mean, like I'll have like crazy things like curry, or some sort of Thai curry, or I'll do like the basic meal would be uh like a one sheet pan with chicken thighs and sweet potatoes that are cubed up and like some broccolini or something, right? And you got your thirds there with carbs, protein, vegetable, and you just toss it all in a bowl, toss some avocado oil and some salt and vinegar or salt and pepper and not vinegar, and garlic powder, onion powder, maybe some Italian seasoning, and just toss it all up, put it in the oven, and you're off to the races.
Nice. What about morning of?
Um, Morning of is usually just like generic oatmeal, maybe some honey or some jam or something to make it, some berries to make it taste a little better, but nothing crazy in that respect either. Safe is good. It doesn't have to be like one thing, but just things that aren't extravagant. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna have, some sort of like salmon roll the morning of.
Mm. Little
That sounds
chorizo breakfast burrito or anything like that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What about gear? It's cross country shoes. Just you buy whatever and then you just run in them. Have you found that there are certain brands that are better fitting your feet, or if someone is looking at a pair of shoes, what might they be looking at in one that's going to be better than the others?
Well, I really like Under Armour.
Is that the pitch?
Yeah, that's I don't know. Yeah, full disclosure, I'm sponsored by Under Armour. They are gracious enough to supply me with any and all gear that I need. And in return, I market them to the best of my ability. Uh, in high school, it was just a lot of like whatever I could find at Tongass, really.
Yeah.
And then if I made state, that was kind of like the fun time when I would go to Skinny Ravens running and would like pick out a pair of spikes that I would run in for state, and then usually never wear them again because my feet would grow and then I'd have to get a new pair the following year.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of different brands out there. They're all pretty competitive with each other at this point. Early on in COVID, certain brands kind of had more R&D money and kind of took the reins on like the new styles of carbon plated shoes and super shoes and all that jazz. But at this point, everyone's kind of caught up to each other, and and they're really all fighting over the last 5%.
Hmm.
Um, so I personally I don't think that there's any sort of disadvantage in any one over the other, but I do. I've had trouble like I even in the Nikes, when I was running for Nike and Hoka, like I had to yeah, I guess Under Armour technically is the first shoe that I've run in that isn't that I don't have to like quote unquote change. So that goes somewhere. In Hoka's I dealt with their heel drop was a little more aggressive. So the heel drop is talking about how high the stack height is on the heel versus the stack height on the midsole. And that's like a heel toe drop. You'll see, 6 millimeters or 8 millimeters. And Hoka was kind of known for having less heel drop, which is more towards the like uh natural like running form, right? The people kind of went to that, I forget what the shoe's called, where it was like a zero drop shoe and they had like little toes
Hmm.
at the end. So that was like their kind of thing was steered towards that. But that 4 millimeter difference over hundreds of miles, which means like tens of thousands of Achilles stretches, irritated my soleus, and I ended up having to put like heel cups in the bottom of them to get a little
Mm.
more lift. Um, and then in Nikes, there's something rubbed on my peroneal, and so I would like slit the inside of the shoe and rip out a lot of the foam so that you
Oh,
couldn't tell from the outside that it looked, everything was pretty subtle. None of it was like game breaking, right? But thankfully with Under Armour, they've all fit great, and I've hadn't had to like modify anything in that respect.
yeah. I've had a couple when I coached basketball. A couple kids in California would always like hate a pair of shoes, but they just liked how they looked. I'm like, dude, I mean,
Yeah.
everyone else is wearing these Nikes or these Jordans, or whatever. But that doesn't mean they're going to fit for everybody. It doesn't mean that they're going to. It's your foot. It's not a style thing. It's not a preference thing. It's whether or not it makes your foot hit or not.
Yeah.
So
You know what
that
also
should be
looks
your
good?
decider.
Throwing up 30 points.
Exactly,
So
or not
yeah.
bleeding through the shoe. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So let the numbers speak. Yeah.
What about injuries? I'm sure at some point you've had some nagging things, some
A couple.
tendonitis, whatever stuff like that. How do you get through that?
Yeah. I've had a couple. One obviously mild one with the Hokas that like, you know, funny enough, the only thing that solved it was just the heel cups, which wasn't too hard to figure out once I learned that it was the heel drop. Um, outside of that, the only other big injuries I've had were there. I guess I'd call them more acute injuries or things that happened in moments. They weren't like you're saying like tendonitis. Like I had a little bit of that, but it was because I tore my PCL
Mm.
hitting a water barrier. Um, for all your body people out there, the PCL is the smallest of the four. ACL, MCL, LCL, and PCL. And it's the ligament that holds your knee from going backwards towards your, I guess it'd be perpendicular to your quad, and upper leg. So I like was running. I know people can't see this, but I hit my shin on a water pit in
Mm.
my thigh and upper leg continued moving forward while my lower leg stopped. So
Gotcha.
they call it a dashboard injury, because a lot of times people get it when the airbags go off and their knees are like they have their feet on the dash. Um, so that was uh, just a process of like time, right?
Mm.
Time in a PRP shot, which is I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go with
Go for
science
it.
stuff. Yeah, PRP is a what platelet rich plasma. They
Oh,
basically will pull out your own blood, spin it, and separate the red blood cells and the white blood cells, and like basically get all the healing benefits out. And uh, which is going to be the oxygen rich red blood cells. The white blood cells are for defense. And then they'll put it with this concoction. I don't know what's in the concoction, but I'll call that the PRP. And then they'll inject it locally to the area that you had the injury. So it's really good for places that get low blood. So things like tendons and places that are not getting a lot of blood flow that can't heal quickly on their own. Um, so I've had that once in my right knee, I guess we'll call it, and then once in my left knee for I tore my IT band 2 years ago
ooh.
now. Not a full rupture. So there's different, there's what, three tiers of tears. And it's kind of like the best way to describe it because the IT band is under tension. It's like a rope under tension. And then imagine having little slits in the rope. I mean, everyone that probably is from Ketchikan knows what a rope looks like, and it's all twisted up, right? And you have these little grooves. So imagine some of those grooves kind of like delaminating
Mm.
and having a little bit of a gap, and it just creates a little bit of friction, and then that friction leads to obviously pain and discomfort. And so they go in and they shoot the PRP kind of in those voids that have been created, and then that helps heal it all back up.
How'd you do that one?
That I don't know. I hit a hurdle.
Mm.
So yeah, the I hit a hurdle during a pre-race at the Olympic trials in 2021, and then didn't notice anything until September when I like took a pause, took my downtime, and then started building in the fall. And my knee just got really pissed off, and The only thing I could think of was that. So pretty confident it was that, and I just like it took some time to develop.
So what's the the steeplechase? Maybe we should do a little bit about that because
Yeah.
you're hitting
Yeah.
things on the run here. So you've got hurdles, you've got water obstacles. How far is this, and
Um,
what is that like?
yeah, the steeplechase is 3,000 meters, so 200 meters less than 2 miles, 218 meters, whatever. Um, and it is like the long distance hurdling event. So you have four hurdles that aren't class. They're not a hurdle. They don't fall over like a hurdle. It's just imagine a 4x4 that is 36 inches up. That's essentially what it is. And there's four of those per lap, and then there's a fifth one that is before a 10-foot water pit. And that water pit is also sloped. So the further out you land, the shallower your land. Um, so that I guess incentivizes a little bit to jump further, but at this point, it doesn't really like you're fighting for inches. So, but that's kind of the basis. You do 7.5 laps, and 7 of those laps are over hurdles and a water pit.
And it looks
So,
like some of those races get a little bit tighter quarters. What is it like? I guess physically with the
yeah,
other runners.
yeah. I mean, every race depending on like a lot of championship races are quite bunched up because everyone's trying to run for a place, not necessarily a time. So you're all kind of like feeling each other out and running in a comfortable zone. But that's also when people fall and get tripped up. In the steeple specifically, you kind of have to have a sixth sense of when the barriers are coming and good reaction time and a little better athleticism just in case something happens, right? To be able to roll out of it or chop your step and jump really like quickly, and also just trust more than other events. Like you have to trust that the person in front of you is going to jump over it, right? Because if they
Yeah,
don't, then you hit them.
piling
Um,
up.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think that's one of the unique things about the steeple.
Hmm. So what do you got next? What's on the horizon for you?
So right now we're kind of gearing up for indoor track, or I guess they just changed that to short track is the technical like terminology now. And I'll fly out to Boston on the end of the month to do a 3K and hopefully qualify for the US indoor uh track championships in Albuquerque on February 16th, I think. So I'll go to BU, which I guess BU is the university that hosts it on the 26th and then also on the 2nd. So two back-to-back weekends. Hopefully knock out the time and then have basically a down week here, and then I'll drive over to Albuquerque, conveniently placed like 3.5 hours from where I live.
Nice. What
Yeah.
about long term? What are you thinking? How are you going to ride this thing out?
Um, I mean, I'll do these 3 races, take a little bit more downtime, and then like the long, slow grind of the track season starts. And you'll do a couple. Thankfully, I ran well last year, so you kind of have a little more security, knowing that you're going to get into some of the more elite races, and you don't have to like scrap up some of the smaller ones to try and like prove your worth, I'll say.
Mm.
Um, so I can like kind of pen in where I'm going to go already, and knowing that helps dictate like when key workouts are and when you can build base and taper and stuff like that. And all of that kind of leads to the Olympic trials in the end of June back in Eugene. Um, and hopefully I kind of do a repeat of last year and be one of the top 3 athletes, and make the team, which then of course would mean that I'd go to the Olympics over in Paris, uh, and run there. So yeah, exciting next like 10 months,
Yeah, shoot.
8 months. Yeah.
Did last Olympics you qualified, right?
No, not I was fifth at the
You're
last Olympic
fifth.
trials.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, the track is weird because I was third last year and made the world team, and in all like from a competitive standpoint, it's the same as the Olympics.
Mm.
Like you're racing the same people at the USA Championships. The only difference is that you're not under the umbrella of the Olympics. There's just like there's more incentive. It's like better to make the Olympic team because people watch more at the Olympics, right? From a
Mm,
marketing standpoint, you have more pressure to make the team, because just more people tune in.
yeah.
So hopefully I make it. Otherwise, I'm just considered a world. What is it called? Just like a U.S. world team. I don't know. Doesn't sound nearly as cool as Olympian.
I'm
Uh,
still a world class athlete who gets
yeah,
Under
yeah,
Armour shoes. So yeah, I think
yeah,
that's pretty good.
yeah.
But you got anything else? Anything you want to share? Anything else to go over?
Um. Oh, well, I just remembered that kid's name. He's another Alaskan who trains at NAU. His name is Santiago. Not that he's not from Ketchikan or anything, but it
Oh,
just popped into my mind. So I'm gonna uh shout out another Alaskan.
cool.
But outside of that, no. It looks like Ketchikan's still getting plenty of rain and a little bit of snow I saw on the forecast. So
Yeah,
good luck with that.
176 inches of rain last year, which
Yeah.
is the record. I think was 189 or something like that. So sixth overall, eighth, something like that. So a
Yeah.
lot of rain, but nothing crazy.
Nothing, yeah, nothing out of the ordinary. I guess the bigger thing is how many grade days did you have? Because that's
Oof.
really what gets you.
We had a
Uh,
pretty decent summer. We had a couple of nice stretches. So when I look back at 2023, I think of a couple of nice weeks in June, a couple of nice weeks in
mhm.
August. So all right, we did okay.
Yeah, that's good. Good.
You've done the Fourth of July race up
Oh, the Blueberry Festival or the Deer Mountain Challenge.
Deer Mountain Challenge, yeah. Well, that's not
Yeah,
Fourth of
I
July,
did
is
that.
it?
I did that once. Yeah. When was that? I think it was when I was still in college, I believe. Maybe 2014. It's been a long time ago. I was back home for just like 3 or 4 days this past winter, and tried to there's an app called Strava, which kind of records like running, and people can put like segments that they the fastest times.
Mm.
So I went out to Ward Lake and just torched whatever was there.
Just punish
So
some
that my
people.
my
Nice,
goal is to eventually get back there during the summer and just go through and just try and like solidify my name and glory on that app and catch it.
nice,
So anyone that
nice,
comes through on a cruise ship will know.
nice. Have you done Mount Marathon?
I haven't. Nope.
Uh,
Yeah. A lot of yeah. I mean, sad to say that I haven't done a lot of exploring outside of Southeast,
yeah.
and just like the local Anchorage area for like soccer meets and or soccer tournaments. And that's a big unknown that is exciting to kind of like do post competitive track. Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure it would probably be a good idea to be running up Deer Mountain and Mountain Marathon with just it's a hazard. It's
Yeah.
the chance
It
for
sounds
injury
fun.
to be a lot of risk. It attracts a lot of runners and a lot of athletes, but you know it probably would not be a great thing when you have a lot to
Yeah.
lose.
Yeah, no, I got a mental map of, you finish being a professional track athlete, and then you come back and you run around playing the outdoor Rainbird Cup, and then you go up north and you just do some fun races.
Awesome.
So
Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you being on here.
okay,
Great to
right.
talk to you, and good luck in the upcoming races in the upcoming season.
Yeah, thank you.